At highway speed, a sign does not have to look elegant. It has to become readable before your exit becomes a last-second decision. That is why the letters look familiar but never quite like the type in a book, app, or advertisement. They belong to a purpose-built alphabet designed around distance, motion, darkness, and limited attention. Every curve and gap enters that moving visibility budget. The United States does not specify one highway font. It specifies a family called the FHWA standard alphabets. The family runs from narrow series B to broad series F, with different widths for different space and legibility demands. Series E modified keeps Series E's forms and spacing, but gives the strokes more weight. This is closer to engineering than typography for a poster. Every character must work as part of a road system. A sign is detected, recognized, read, understood, and then acted upon while the vehicle keeps moving. If any step consumes too much distance, the driver receives the message after the useful decision point. The road keeps spending feet while the brain works. Start with size. MUTCD guidance uses at least 1 inch of letter height for every 30 feet of required legibility distance. A 12-inch initial letter therefore corresponds to roughly 360 feet of legibility distance under that design rule. At 65 miles per hour, a car covers that distance in about 3.8 seconds. The ruler is also a clock. Larger letters are not free. They make every destination longer, every panel wider, and every support more demanding. So the alphabet offers different series widths instead of letting a designer squeeze any typeface until it fits. The narrow series saves horizontal space. Wider series open the internal shapes and strokes when space allows, but the letter form itself is protected. The manual says a series may not be stretched, compressed, warped, or otherwise manipulated. If a word runs long, engineers choose an approved series, adjust permitted spacing, abbreviate carefully, or enlarge the sign. That preserves known proportions instead of creating a new alphabet on every project. Consistency is useful only when the geometry itself remains controlled. Spacing is just as engineered as the strokes. FHWA publishes pair-by-pair criteria and an official word length calculator. The empty space around an A is not the same as the space around an H, O, or T. Crowding destroys separation. Too much space breaks a word into unrelated shapes. The useful gap depends on the neighboring edges. Case also carries information. Place, street, and highway names use an initial capital followed by lowercase letters. On conventional guide signs, those lowercase loops are 3/4 of the initial capital height. Other messages, such as actions and distances, generally stay in uppercase, so names and instructions form a consistent hierarchy. Mixed case can help familiar place names form distinctive word shapes, but it is not a universal magic trick. The sign still needs sufficient height, contrast, spacing, placement, and a message short enough to process. Typography cannot rescue a crowded sentence delivered too late. Fewer words often protect more response time than a clever letter form. Now turn off the sun. At night, the alphabet depends on a material that sends headlight energy back toward the vehicle. That behavior is retroreflection. Unlike diffuse paint, it redirects much of the incoming light toward its source. Because the driver's eyes sit near the headlights, the message appears bright from the exact viewpoint that needs it. One sheeting technology uses tiny glass beads. Another uses microscopic cube corner patterns that act like compact prisms. Both solve the same directional problem: collect light arriving from the vehicle and return it close to the incoming path. The letter is therefore not only a shape. At night, it is a controlled luminous pattern against a dark background. More brightness is not automatically better. Stroke width, open counters, spacing, contrast, and glare must still leave each character distinct. That is why font comparisons that change size, case, and material at once can produce a misleading winner. A fair test must separate the alphabet from every other variable in the sign system. Otherwise, the experiment measures a bundle, then credits one label. Became the best-known challenge to the standard alphabets. It was designed to keep internal spaces more open under nighttime glow. Some tests reported benefits, while other comparisons were mixed or favored standard letters in important cases. FHWA's later review warned that larger letters and a switch to mixed case could be mistaken for a typeface effect. The lesson is not that one alphabet is perfect. It is that evidence must describe the complete viewing condition. A typeface name cannot tell you the letter height, sign size, road speed, contrast, message load, or maintenance condition. Those variables decide how many usable seconds the driver actually receives. Sheeting also ages. Sun, weather, dirt, and damage can reduce the nighttime return. Agencies therefore inspect signs or manage replacement schedules to keep minimum visibility from quietly disappearing. A perfectly drawn letter on worn sheeting is still a failed nighttime message. The design survives only when the material and maintenance survive with it. This system also explains why a highway sign cannot be designed like a phone screen. A screen waits in your hand. A sign approaches, shrinks in peripheral vision, competes with traffic, and vanishes behind you. The alphabet must survive that moving window with no tap, zoom, or second chance. So engineers work backward from the decision: how far away must the message be legible, and how long will it take to process? Then they choose letter height, series, case, spacing, contrast, placement, and panel size as one connected design. The exact drawing remains standardized so drivers encounter a consistent visual language from one road to another. Return to the green panel above the highway. Its letters are broad enough to separate, compact enough to fit, and large enough to buy distance. Mixed case names form recognizable silhouettes. Uppercase instructions establish hierarchy. Material returns the headlight beam. Spacing and message length protect the final seconds needed to understand and respond. So why do highway signs use their own alphabet? Because ordinary typography is not designed around a viewer moving at 65 miles per hour. The strange-looking letters are not decoration. They are one layer in a timed visibility machine. Subscribe for the hidden reasons behind ordinary systems, including the messages engineered to be understood before they disappear.